Okay, everybody, welcome to this Instagram Live edition of Tip of the Day. We are here in Southern California at Haas Automation's video studio with Mark Terryberry, who needs no introduction. We've also got Andrew Harnett, who's going to be monitoring your chat and answering your questions and sending your questions out to Mark. Mr. Terryberry, thanks for joining us. How are you feeling today? How's everything going?
Doing pretty good, generally speaking. This is just a typical, average, normal Thursday like any other, right? No changes whatsoever. So we just thought we'd go on Instagram, say hi to you guys, knowing that you might be at home, you might still be at work, and we thought we'd answer some questions. Now, for the last couple of days, we've been collecting some questions from our Instagram account because we posted this advert a few days ago that we were going to have this Ask Me Anything, this live Haas Instagram event. So I think maybe we'll just get right to it. So let's go back to the studio to Andrew. There you go. And you can ask some of the questions that have been asked.
All right, so starting off, one of the questions we often get asked, and we got asked this time, was what are some of the topics that are coming up on Tip of the Day in the near future?
So we haven't really gone over all these, so forgive me as I think of this stuff. Do we want to talk about the one we just shot?
Let's do it.
Okay, so Frank and I just shot a video.
Sneak peek.
And I've got this on my desktop. I was emailing it. Let's go and show this. Can you show the screen? We'll see if this works. I'm going to start this guy and make it go full screen. Can you guys even see what this is?
Today on Mr. Terryberry's neighborhood.
We'll let it play through one more time. So if that made no sense at all, it's still going. What that was, there we go, one more time. The little train, that's a VF3SS with the spindle driving a little train around a track. And because we can walk around here, I might as well grab this. All this stuff's laying around. So this is a studio, by the way. We're in a warehouse outside of our normal factory setting. And we got so busy making machines that they kicked us out. So, I don't know, 6 months ago or longer, they kicked us out of our normal spot. They're now building GRs in what used to be our old photo area. And so we're in a little warehouse area where we keep parts and things. And that's where we've set up the machine. So this is where we film a lot of our Haas certification videos, a lot of our Tip of the Day videos. And this last week, Frank, who's holding the camera, he and I were filming a video that was making use of all these little pieces here. All these little bits and pieces. And it's actually going to be a fun little video. I'll just tell you what we were doing. We were talking about how the code looks an awful lot like G1, G2, G3, and we show you how to make a program and how those basic codes work. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to see that. Now, we actually had all these guys, little props, stuck to the table with the little blue things because we found out that when you put the wood pieces on the table, they fall over when we try and run it. And oh, yeah, let's go back over there. But you know what? Here, let's go talk about this before we ask the next question. I have a question for you guys. You can comment or you can even email us at tod@haascnc.com. The reason I had this little blue stuff in my box in the first place, this is Loctite Fun Tack. It's for hanging pictures on your walls without destroying the walls. It's just that little kind of silly putty stuff that's meant for sticking stuff on the walls, but easy release. Now, the reason I had this in my box in the first place, it wasn't to stick little wooden toys to the table. It was because I've always used this stuff to clean the lint off of my tools when using a tool presetter, an optical tool presetter, because you get the little fuzzy stuff on the ends of the tools, on the optics, and you can't see it. So I'll use this and dab it on the corners of the tools, like so, to clean up the edges of the tools so I can see them better on the tool presetter. I'm not sure what other people use. I've heard people rolling up little balls of rubber cement, this type of stuff. But email us, just tell us if you have a tool presetter, what you're using to clean off the tips of those tools. So that's one video that we've got coming up. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff.
Let's change gears and ask, this is one of the questions that we had posted before we got started on the Instagram on the Instagram post. This is from Cisco Custom Engineering. Using G68 rotation cycles is easy when using the angle probe cycle on an NGC. But how do you find the angle at origin probing two bores that should be at a known angle, say parallel to x-axis or 30 degrees from x-axis?
Okay, so they've got a part and they're probing two weird shapes and they're trying to find out their part angle of rotation, but it's not a straight line. So we got a spindle probe in there. So the reason I've got my laptop out here is in case I get asked a question that's really hard. I've got folders on my desktop all set up to my applications resource stuff. But if I go to my Inspection Plus software, which I always have on my desktop, it's the Renishaw Inspection Plus, and we've got all this information on the website. In fact, you can Google Haas video bonus content, and you'll see links to all this same stuff that I'm looking at. But I just want to open up the Renishaw manual here and skip to the bottom. I think it's 09843, and it is. So what you can do is you can probe two different features, and using the 09843 cycle in the Renishaw Inspection Plus manual, you can save the information from this one, save the information from this one, and it will tell you the angle between those two features. Let's say the center of this hole and the center of this hole, it'll tell you the angle. You can then use that angle with an R value and your G68 code to rotate your part. So we would use this a lot when I was rebuilding water pumps. Right? You've got two features on a water pump, and it's a casting, and so all I'm doing is making the bearing pocket larger, but it has to be in the right spot, and the part might be rotated. So I would come in and probe the center bore, probe the locating hole, G68, rotate my part, make the bore larger, drill and tap this hole with whatever it needed, and we would do that for every part. It was easier to do that than try and locate on some weird internal feature. So I guess that's the answer. Renishaw Inspection Plus if you're trying to set your G68 on some weird feature.
Just want to point out there's over 100 people in the Instagram chat. Thanks to everybody for joining us. This is pretty awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So we got these questions are flying by here, but we got a question from That Ruined Mark 1, it looks like. It sounds like he's stuck at home because of obvious events. And he asks, what can I do to stay busy at home? How's that for an open-ended question?
Yeah, you're much better off asking me that question instead of your wife or your husband, because I'm sure they've got plenty of all those things. I love the memes lately. Unfortunately, there's a few good things to come out of this entire situation, right? And one of them is the memes. Holy cow! The essential employee, the essential machinist employee memes are fantastic. I've got a whole desktop folder full of them, and I can't show you any of them, but they're fantastic. So if you're sitting at home right now, what could you be doing? We've gotten this question a lot. We were talking about this last week. So we have this HTech network, Haas Technical Education Center. You can Google it, and a lot of the technical school teachers are on there and posting great information. And so over the last couple of days, I've seen a couple posts come through. One from Ed Doherty, right? He's a Sunland Technical College, and he teaches programming and machining and that kind of stuff. And one of the posts that he put out there reminded me of another website that I thought was cool. It's called ncviewer.com. It's not a Haas website, it's just a site put together, I think by one of the guys from Autodesk. But it's pretty cool. Let me pull it up here one second. File open. So this is what Ed had posted. And here, you can take a look at this. So I'll just mention this. You might as well go check it out. So this is ncviewer.com. And what this is just an easy way to plot all your programs. Now, this program was brought up, it was bonus content program from one of our more recent videos, our 9-line video. And that's a great video to watch right now. So again, Google Haas video bonus content, and you'll find all these example programs and little tutorials kind of on how you might program by hand, both mill and lathe. And if you've got some downtime and you want to learn how to program from scratch, check that out. Not only that, but you can go on this website and plot out the stuff that you hand program. And they've got some other tutorials on there as well. In that same bonus content area on the internet, we've got The Haas mill and lathe programming workbooks, which are fantastic. Great place to start if you're looking at programming. And then again, you can always just watch some of our other videos or start the Haas certification video series, which is kind of a more step-by-step, get you from one place to the next in your machining ability. And that'll be good. You know what? Here, let me mention something else.
That might segue us into a good question. We've had questions about what are some of the coolest parts, or maybe the most difficult parts that you've made in your career. I think people are interested in what got Mark Terryberry started.
This is so vain. So I've got folders and folders worth of photographs on my laptop because I'll use them for presentations to show the different parts that I've made. And what was the question? What's the favorite part?
Either what's one of the more interesting or more challenging parts that you've made in your.
I've been really lucky. I've been able to work with a lot of really, really good designers and engineers. And so I was hired at a place to make engine blocks and cylinder heads, that kind of stuff. But those guys were so good at what they did. I just learned from them every day. That was Siltech, PowerTech back in Michigan. And so the engine blocks were definitely terrific projects, hundreds of tools, large machines, cylinder heads, this type of stuff. But some of the parts I did early on were tough. In my first year or two of machining, we had these biomedical parts that were made out of Ultim 2300. It's a glass-filled engineered plastic. And it's easy to work with, but it's hard on tools. The glass in it makes your little end mills, wear out fast. The problem was that these thin framed parts had to be flat and parallel within 1/1000th of an inch, right? So 25 micron. And the second you machined on them, they would completely bow. They would turn into potato chips. And so we sent these things out. We had the material. You can actually stress relieve and anneal plastics just like you can steel. If you're making a big wing spar, you might send the material out to have it normalized or this type of thing. But for the glass-filled plastics, I didn't have any luck at all with this. If you machined a big pocket in one side, the thing's gonna bow. So at the end of the day, we just learned to totally rough out everything on both sides of the part. And once we got this thing all roughed out, we would put it down, double back tape it, the part would teeter-totter, we double back tape it, we would then fly cut that material, and now we've got one surface that's completely flat in a relaxed state that we can locate our next operation on. And then you start working your way back through it. So we would have one flat side now that we'd shimmed, taped down, fly cut. Then we turn it over, tape it down, fly cut the other side. Now we have two flat and parallel surfaces. We would hold that part in a window fixture, machine out everything else that had already been roughed. And because the majority of the material is already gone, it's done deforming, and we can hit all of our tolerances. So it seemed like a really silly part, and it was a lot of manual labor, but these parts were hundreds of dollars each, and that was probably one of my hardest and most favorite part to make. Not because it was easy, but because it was hard.
Awesome.
Alrighty, so I'm going to actually field a question that came in from somewhere here in the chat that flew by. Is there a Haas operative course for outside the U.S.? And the answer is we're working on that right now. We're in the midst of translating the Haas mill operator course into 4 European languages, and more to follow after that, most likely. And then we're about to release the Haas lathe operator series very shortly here. Working on that. That should be, I don't know, I don't want to make any promises, but quite soon here. And then I have another question after that. Here in the, this will be for you, Mark. Aero Method asks, he wants to put a TRT 210 onto a VF2SS. Is that too big a rotary table for that size of machine? What do you think? It's close, right?
That's awfully close. We actually have, so we used to send out this Excel spreadsheet years ago that was a Haas rotary fit chart. And for some reason, if I go to my Google thing, Haas rotary fit chart. I wonder if it's on there. I think we posted most of the stuff on the website. And so you can actually get recommendations for which is the best rotary next to your machine now. And so we can get more information on that.
Did you Google Haas rotary fit chart, Mark?
So yeah, and so I didn't research this question. We just got it live. And so we used to have an Excel spreadsheet where they literally had a guy, an engineer, grabbing every rotary product we make and sticking it on the machine and saying, can it make tool changes? Yes, no, it's too hard. And so that information was being sent out in an Excel spreadsheet for years. And so I just Googled Haas rotary fit chart, and it came back up, and there's a Haas rotary fit chart. And you said VF2?
Yeah, VF2.
So now I type in VF2, and that's it. And I get this big long list of rotaries that fit. It's hard to explain about positive fit, which means great fit, or it'll say caution. And again, I just Googled Haas rotary fit chart, and it'll come up with this great chart, and I can go down to, what'd you say, TRT, so looking for 5-axis trunnion, and they're saying, yeah, that sucker's going to fit. Cool. It's tight. Now with that, we've got some other videos that you definitely want to check out, which is safe tool change position, right? If you do a tool change at the wrong spot, you're going to, with a long drill, you're going to hit that rotary, and it's not a good idea. So you'll definitely want to set that up. And yeah, so this is great. Take a look at this again. So you actually have a picture of what that rotary would look like on your machine. This is what a TRT 210 would look like on a VF2 table. VF2 dimensions, TRT 210 dimensions, and that's it. But again, it's a rotary, so you've got to really watch things when you're doing tool changes. And we've now got, on the Haas control, we've got new settings, which have made things a lot easier. Yeah, so we've got user positions on a next-gen control, NGC setting, user positions, tool change mid-position, and you can set all these different intermediate positions to go to. First, like, always move back and then up and then over or whatever, so you don't get into trouble when doing a tool change. And so when you're putting a big rotary on a small machine, it's possible, just watch the tool changes.
So just scanning the chat here, digging how many folks we have from all over the world. We've got Dominican Republic, India. Chat is still going strong. Over 100 folks still in the Instagram chat.
Nice,
Very
nice.
Cool.
All right, so we had a couple of questions that were submitted earlier, and they both dealt with how to get started in the CNC business. Maybe not more as an operator than maybe as a shop owner. Anyway, I'm going to read one of them. This is from Make It With Calvin. Advice for those looking to get into manufacturing as a whole, as an apprenticeship, trade school, or college. What is the best route and why? How's that for wide open?
So that's Make With Calvin?
Yeah.
That's Instamachinist, isn't it? Maybe somebody can comment on that. So we'll take a look at that. Anyhow, if you've ever used the Instamachinist hashtag, I think that's him. So the question is, how do you get into the business?
How do you get into the business?
And what trade school?
CNC apprenticeship, trade school, college. What's the best route?
Unfortunately, there's not an easy answer, but I'll give you my answer. There are a lot of really good technical schools out there. So there's Suncoast that we talked about in Florida. There's Danville. We've got a whole bunch here in California. So there are some really excellent technical colleges out there where you can learn quite a bit. Sometimes though, the easiest way to learn quickly is to jump in with both feet and get yourself in front of a machine. Now, a lot of these schools, technical schools, have equipment there, and that's kind of the easiest way to learn, is because they've got machines available for you to practice on and to learn on. So that's definitely a great way to do it. But sometimes, a 4-month, 6-month, 1 year, 2-year program is tough if you've got to support a family or you've got to make a paycheck. And so in those cases, you simply got to find some night classes, or it's just your life dictates how you need to do this. You simply get a job in a local shop where you're around equipment and you start learning, and then you can take the classes at the trade schools and stuff, or even the Haas certification program online to help you get started right off the bat. But it's a weird thing. So at what point are you a machinist? How long does it take to become a machinist? And it's a question we get asked quite a bit. And you know what?
Yeah, so we were talking about this a couple of days ago, and your response was that it doesn't take that long to become a machinist in terms of making your first part or making your first few parts, but it takes as long as you want to get really good. So
let me Google that. Where's that dumb thing? wait a second. It was so I actually Googled. Oh, that's funny. Let's see. How long does it take? So I'm Googling how long does it take to become a machinist, but Google has auto-filled this for me. It's saying how long does it take to become and it automatically filled it in. How long does it take to become a magician? That's what came up, and we were talking about this, and I Googled this.
And some machinists are magicians for sure.
Yeah, so I literally clicked on this because it was more interesting than how long does it take to become a machinist, and I got the perfect answer. So I just Googled how long does it take to become a machinist, or a magician came up. And so this is from Quora, Quora, and this is a comment by Jay McMullen. He says it's a musician, and he's talking about being a magician, but the answer totally applies to being a machinist. He wrote, "You can become skilled very quickly if you only have a couple of tricks. Just like any other craft, the magician should hone his craft and add to his repertoire. The magician, the machinist, should not settle with mediocrity. In that case, machinists, should always be perfecting their craft until they give it up or die." So here's the hard part of answering questions like how long does it take or what's the best way to do whatever. It's that I've been doing this for a lot of years and I still don't know anything. Every day I'm learning something different. I thought I was a good machinist, and then I took a job. I ran a production machine shop for a very long time, and so for a decade I was running job shop parts just nonstop every day. And then I took a job like in Michigan running production parts. I realized I didn't know anything. Totally different sides of machining, mass production versus job shop stuff. And then I did that for a while and I thought I knew it all. And then I got a job at Haas. And then I worked in the applications department with the other apps guys. And then I once again realized that I knew nothing. There was so much more that I had no idea to. So it's easy to become a machinist in a couple of days and watch a few videos. You start making some parts. And that's a great way to start. And then you just kind of add to your bag of tricks as you go along. The nice thing about technical school or this type of thing is that you learn more tricks all at once before you start. But no matter how you get started, you're going to, you just never stop learning. Especially in this industry, if you stop learning, you're going to get outdated really fast because the industry just simply, the technology changes every few years and you just got to keep up onto it. Which is actually one of the great things for job security. If you're a machinist, a CNC programmer, and you stay up on this stuff, you're always going to have a job because, frankly, everything changes every few years. Not that your old experience doesn't carry over, but there's always something new.
Just a shout out to this guy Lewis. Mark, let me scroll up a little bit.
He's scrolling through the phone.
Mark, you're brilliant. It helps me being an apprentice toolmaker when I watch your videos. So informative. Shout out Lewis Perry 16. Appreciate the comment, buddy.
Nice. That's fantastic.
All right, so we got another question from here on the feed from Frank the Machinist. There's another one you can take in 10 different directions. What vice do you see more people using?
Oh, what vice? Great question.
You know what's funny? Is
We've done a few videos on vices too.
Yeah.
But
So over the last few years, of course, orange vice has really taken off. A lot of people are happy with the chick vices, the multi, because they can gang them up, this type of stuff. We've always used Kurt vice here in the States, really popular vice. What's funny is that it's a territorial question. If you go to Europe and stuff like that, all their vices are totally weird looking. They have these rails and a different locking system on top, and so they use a completely different set of vices over there. Now, I kind of grew up on Kurt vices, so I'm familiar with them. I love them. Nice, strong vices. But again, if I'm racking up lots of parts, I've used chick vices quite a bit, and I've heard nothing but good things about orange vice. Now, there are so many different brands out there. Now, what's changing nowadays is that we're seeing more and more of the 5-axis stuff. And so you're going to see all these different kind of vices coming up. In fact, I was going to ask, do you have a second? Yeah, do you have a second? Let's take a look at the UMC.
Let's take a walk.
Let me, don't look in this. This is the junk drawer.
All right, I'm going to look over here. Look at Andrew.
Okay, so that's my junk drawer.
Mark's secret cabinet.
One thing about like little vices, this is just a little 5th-axis vice, which I like, because when you're talking about 5-axis parts, bigger is not better. I would not put a great big giant vice on the machine if you're running tiny parts. Great big vices get in the way, especially when you're doing 5-axis parts. Here, let's go to the UMC and I'll show you some of the vices. So I almost thought about doing this earlier when we talked about what's coming up soon on different videos. And so the reason that this machine is being set up is because we were going to show you how to set work offsets with funny parts on a machine that's got DWO and TCPC, dynamic work offsets, and tool center point control. So this is this is kind of a standard 5-axis vise. This is literally a 5th-axis vise. And the beauty about this guy is that it's got a tapered thing. Most 5-axis vices are not like my standard vices that I'll put on my VF3. Most 5-axis vices are self-centering. The reason that you'd want to go with a self-centering vise for a first op on a 5-axis machine is that they're smaller and your part's always in the center. Okay, so you don't have this long edge of the vise that's going to get in your way. So it's just a nice standard footprint. And so a 5-axis vise like this is great, and if my parts are small, I'm not going to put it on a giant vise like this. I'm going to put it on a smaller vise like this guy. But sometimes you need to get even closer than that, and so sometimes the best vise for the job, and 5th axis makes dovetail fixtures as well. A lot of other people do. What I've got here in front of me is some really nice Raptor fixtures. And so I'll stack up these Raptor fixtures on my machine, put dovetails on them, and then when I machine on this guy, you can really, really reach all sides. So with 5th axis parts, 5-axis parts, bigger is not better. It's all about clearance. And when you're talking about putting on different fixtures, this is a Raptor 4-up fixture that's got a dovetail built into it that will fit on top of this 5-axis vise. And then you can tighten this whole setup. I can run 4 parts at once. And so how do you set up these different work offsets on a 5-axis machine? So we're going to do a video on that eventually. But for right now, I just want to mention that sometimes the best vise for the job is not a vise at all. But again, everyone that had a vise 10 years ago now has some type of dovetail fixture for some of the weird stuff like this. The nice thing about a dovetail fixture is that you're not influencing the part. If I've got a thin part like this guy and I'm clamping on it, it's fine. But sometimes if you over clamp on something, it'll distort. And so with a dovetail fixture, with the dovetail built in, you're not destroying the part because you hold on to it. And so all the reach in the world, and we're going to do more and more on work holding and fixtures and that kind of stuff as we move forward.
Now it's a little bit empty out here in our Camarillo, in our Southern California facility. Can you talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's happening maybe at the factory to get used to this new normal that we're experiencing right now?
Have you guys seen this video? We made a video the other day. John Reinhardt put one out. Haas. John Reinhardt's one of our video guys. He put out a video on YouTube. I've only watched it locally. If I go to YouTube, Haas, well, it doesn't matter. You go to the Haas YouTube site and you'll see this video, and it kind of talks about what Haas is doing in regards to the coronavirus. And it's crazy. Before I knew that they were making that video, I was sending off emails to my bosses here and saying, we got to make a video on this. This is like so surreal. We got to show people what we're doing. They're like, yeah, it's a great idea. We already did it. So there's a video on YouTube that shows it, but let me show you these are the pictures that I sent to my bosses the other day on my walk in from my car. Can you see this? I don't know. So as I walked from my car, it was weird because I've worked at Haas for 8 years, and what we're looking at here is this is a trash can on my way into work, and what's different is that for 8 years there's always been a lid on that trash can with a little flappy thing that you push in and your hand gets gross from the last stuff that was there. And as I walked in, I realized that there was no lid, and then it struck me, wait a second, somebody didn't lose the lid to the trash can. They got rid of it so I didn't have to touch the lid because of contact with the whole coronavirus stuff. And as I got closer to the building, I saw these orange lines marked on the ground every 8 feet or so. And that made no sense to me until I got to the front gate and I saw these giant signs that say social distancing, stay 6 feet apart minimum. So those lines were painted on the ground to make sure that as people queued up in the morning to enter the factory, that they weren't bunching up. Keep the social distancing. So this is what Haas is doing. Haas is still open. A lot of people are working from home. So we're coming through. They've got scanners that measure your temperature, body temperature as you come in. They've shut down break rooms. They've shut down the microwaves and this type of stuff. They've got signs everywhere talking about how to wash your hands, keep your hands clean. They've got sanitizers. So things at the factory are very different. In fact, so I've got my mask, my gloves. But if this is kind of a dead area here, it's kind of my area and the video guys' areas. So I'm not wearing a mask right now for this video. But certainly if I was at the factory, we'd even be wearing masks. These guys are wearing masks. Yeah. And gloves to keep ourselves safe. So things have definitely changed at the factory.
Mark, we're super thankful that you did this. I think this was a big success. Thank you to the chat room and everybody sending out some great questions. We really appreciate you guys coming and joining us. And also, thanks to Andrew for lobbing us some great questions also.
Yeah, thanks very much for joining us. We definitely plan on doing this again, most likely in the very near future.
Yeah.
And we'll let you know on Instagram when that's happening.
For sure.
Thank you, Mark.
Remember that email address. Oh, you've got it on the board.
Yeah.
If you've got questions, send them to tod@haascnc.com, tod@haascnc.com. If we don't know the answer, we'll send it through to somebody who does. Just like always, one of our apps guys, one of our service guys, or maybe we'll use it if we do this again in the near future. Stay safe. We're so glad we were able to say hi to you today as we're kind of all in different places. But make sure you stay connected. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Take
everybody.
care.